are Running with the Devils. It's a victory show. Our third straight as the Devils take care of business in Seattle, taking down the Chiefs. I'm the RyKno, Ryan Knowles. Here with me, as always, Big John Caldwell. And
Hey.
Big John, feels good to be talking about another ASU victory here on RWD. Devils, go into a rainy UW, but come away with a victory on the strength of a huge fourth quarter. And feels good to be talking about a win today.
I was getting a little nervous, to be honest with you. It was spotting them 14 points before we got on the board was irritating, to say the least. And we had the opportunity to get three, and we did nothing. We went down and you know, when you're trying to get momentum, I've always believed in rewarding the team with points.
Points, yes. A 3 looks better on the scoreboard than a 0.
And the three that could have really come back to bite us in that game.
Yes.
And you were really freaking out, like, oh my gosh.
I was not a happy camper when we got down 14-0. I was very concerned about the defense, but luckily they were able to get it together and finish, which is what great teams do, and we're able to come away with a victory, 35-30. They took it down to the final play, as the Devils tend to do. But shouldn't have really gotten to that point. But ASU does come away with a victory. Looks like a blowout in the win column, as Rajon Wright and that defense lead a big fourth quarter rally. Washington was missed. They had their head coach. He was suspended at the time. He's since been fired. They had their top running back McGrew was out for the game. One of their best wide receivers, Tatum. Quarterback position very much in flux. I mean, they haven't really been able to settle on a guy. They had 2 take snaps during the game, and the Devils took advantage, which is something else great teams do. When the opposing team is going through an identity crisis, they got some off the field issues. There's turmoil in the locker room. Great teams take advantage of those intangibles and make them work in their favor. And I think that that's ultimately what helped the Devils come out.
Once again, the twos on especially the D line really stepped up. Cooper, all these guys were just flying around, making life miserable out there for those guys. I really hand it to the fact that we really look legit across our D line, folks. I'm just
we look deep along the D line for the first time.
Yeah, and it's not. There's no drop. It's like we have, and they all can do different things. Lott, Cooper. I mean, they're all just Lambert. I mean, they're all just bring something to the table. And I was just so impressed with the fact that the last 7 possessions, those guys, we just shut them down. It was. We gave him nothing.
They weren't able to do much, except their last possession where they marched down and got a touchdown.
Yeah, well, that's the weird fluke.
But, I mean, at that point, the game was pretty much over. We were able to, prevent them from getting I'm sorry, they did get the 2-point conversion, but still, defense.
No, we knocked it down.
Oh, I'm sorry. We did knock it down. You're right.
Yeah, we knocked it down.
And a different game I was watching.
No, we knocked it down.
Yeah, and so they were able to take care of business, and which was really great to see. You and I were both a little bit concerned. We thought this was going to be a close game. I thought it'd be more of a defensive battle. I think that it ended up being, but still, the fact that Rajon Wright continues to dominate. I mean, this kid looks like he could be a legit professional running back.
And
he's able to do out of the backfield and with the ball in his hands has just been tremendous, especially these past couple of weeks after he missed the Washington State game. I mean, his value to this team can't be understated.
Even by missing the Washington State game, the fact that I don't see him, barring injury, doing anything. I mean, these 2 next teams we're playing, folks, he can really run up his numbers and cement his position as Offensive Player of the Year. And remember, he may win Player of the Year because really the second best, the best athlete in this whole pack at USC got hurt, right?
Yes, Big London. That's right.
Yeah, London. So without him in the league, missing 6 games, probably 7 games. I think if he just continues And it's not just running; he's catching the ball
Oh yeah,
too.
he is absolutely a dual threat
Very.
out of the backfield. Absolutely, I think that's why they've been able to. They've been wanting to feed him the ball a little bit more
Yeah.
of late, and I think and missing that Washington State game, you could tell the offense was kind of seemed like it was missing something, and it was obvious it looked like he was the missing piece, and
Well,
these past couple of games he's just gone out there and balled out, plain and
and
simple.
and while the West Coast press is paying attention to this again, the East Coast and the bias and the
Oh yeah,
he missed. Was it the Doak Walker
yeah, Doak
list?
Walker, he
He
wasn't a
didn't make
spot
the Doak.
finalist, which is a
What a
huge snub.
joke! What a
Yeah,
joke!
huge snub,
Oh my
absolutely. And,
God!
we're a little biased because we get to watch him on a week out, week in, week out basis. But still, I think his numbers absolutely speak for themselves. And we'll get into his numbers in this game here in a few. But just finishing up the rest of the UW recap, the Arizona State passing game continues to struggle. Jaden Daniels just does not look right. His footwork looks atrocious. You and I both commented on that during the game. And
Yeah.
they didn't even crack 100 yards through the air. Only 90,
Right.
90 yards, 10 of 16 passing for Jaden. He did throw the one touchdown to Curtis Hodges, but he also had a bad interception. So, I mean, slightly. I think it was slightly better than the USC game, but that's not saying much.
No, it's throwing behind guys, throwing low, guys
He's
having to stop,
overthrowing guys and throwing behind them.
guys having to stop in stride to catch the
Yes.
ball. But thank God, guys like Bunkley are still making catches. But
Brian Thompson had another nice game, which was
yes, he did. Yeah,
yeah.
but
So I mean, the receivers I think are doing all they can. They were they were a victim of. They did have some drops in the Washington State game, but
Mhm.
I think Jaden's he's picked up some bad habits. It seems like ever since
Yeah.
the second half of that Utah game, he just has not looked right. Now, part of that is the opposing pass rush. They they've been getting after him a little bit, and he's gotten happy feet in the pocket. I think a little bit. We both kind of agreed on that, but
Mhm.
you still got to be able to hang in there and deliver the tough throws. That's what great quarterbacks do. It's what
Right.
professional quarterbacks do, and we both kind of agree he should come back for another year because right now he does not look like an NFL quarterback in the slightest.
Although his stats for the pack look great, as far as, but that just shows you
I think that's just
how
because nobody's really having a great year.
there's no dominant team.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no dominant team, and there's no dominant quarterback.
I mean, yes,
Uh,
Slovis got hurt. He hasn't looked right since. Chance Nolan's looked pretty good. He's really been I think the best quarterback in this conference from Oregon State. Anthony Brown is starting to look better, but he didn't have a very good first half of the year.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can compare that. It's not a fair comparison. I think we were just talking about the Pac-12. I think you got to talk about all of college football. And from what I've seen, Gene Daniels is not ready to go pro. He needs to come back for another year of coaching, another year of experiencing pro level talent.
mhm.
And it's been an issue. I'm just hoping he can get it. He can look, get it right, and just look, better. Look more like he did the first few games. In these final two contests of the season.
I just hope that his decision to stay or go doesn't stretch out too far because we'll be past signing day, and we'll be past. I mean, there's going to be quarterbacks in the portal, kids like Chubba Purdy coming out of Florida State.
Looks like Spencer Rattler is going to be available too.
Spencer Rattler, and their decision to come here will be largely predicated on when Daniels makes
right away.
Yeah, exactly. So
I agree, and that's something that we'll look at when the season's over. But for right now, Jane Daniels, he's the man, but he's got to play like the man, and right now he hasn't. These past couple weeks, the air attack has been just non-existent. It's been anemic. It's just looked awful, and a big reason why it's been Jane Daniels. Now he's picked it up in other ways. He ran for 56 yards in this game against the Huskies. He was able to get in the end zone on the ground, which was great to see. But he can't just be doing that. He's got to be. You got to at least appear to be a threat through the air, even though your identity as a running team, you still have to you can't let teams put 8 and 9 in the box every single time and not make them pay. And
I'm going to put his
these next 2 games, he'll be able to do that against some weaker pass defenses.
His touchdown run where he spun out of it and dove again and put his body really at risk, to me, was every bit as impressive as the Wazoo game his freshman year where he got airborne. And I know that lights up the team. Everybody loves Jaden for his ability, because he appears very fearless at that moment. So good for him. I just think he's, and we're going to talk about the opportunity this week for him to make things right, and why this is a unique opportunity, much like Colorado was coming after the BYU game. So
yeah, and that was kind of where we found our footing as an offense. Found our identity as a running team, and we're able to take advantage. So hopefully that this week will be something similar in the passing game. And also, just also worth mentioning, penalties kind of reared their ugly head in this game a little bit. 9 for 4. Luckily didn't end up costing us the game, but still, it's something you don't want to see. You want to see this team be a little more disciplined than that.
Yeah, my boy Laval got in there, and man, he was it looked like he was he was really kind of thrown off by their motion and shifts.
Yeah.
And I just hope if he has to play again this week that he'll clean that up. But this guy right here, he is not giving up, folks. He has been balling out. I'm not kidding.
Another nice game from Chase Lucas. Which was
he's
very great to see.
Really a great effort, and he's playing with broken ribs. Okay, so the kid is just he's playing like he wants to get paid. So I'm really happy for him.
Yeah. He was definitely the star of the game against USC, and he made a couple nice plays in this game as well. And then, of course, as we always do on Running with the Devils, our quote of the week here from Firm, and he's talking about the parity in the Pac-12, which is definitely apparent, especially when we start looking at this Oregon State team and what they've done. They're kind of a parity in and of themselves. They're undefeated at home. They've won just one game though away from
1-4.
Corvallis.
1-4, yeah.
Yep.
And you know what it was?
One of the games they won at home was against Utah. That wasn't even that close. They killed Utah.
And it was after that game that I thought, things are shit. We're gonna have to circle this date. It was right after that game.
Yeah,
and they were playing.
Thought the Civil War would be kind of the determinant for the champion in the North, and then, or lo and behold, I mentioned a parity. They turn around the next 2 weeks and lose to Cal and Colorado, two of the weaker teams in the conference. So
this is what this
is really no. And now both of those were on the road, and again they've only won one game away from Corvallis, but still, you got to go out on the road and win in this conference as well. And I think that's a proof that they're just not ready for that. Oregon State is in fact not ready for primetime player. And I also like this quote from Herm about, hanging together, the resiliency of this team against Washington State. Getting down 2 scores was not enough to, put the, it seemed like they kind of lost themselves a little bit against Washington State when they got down early in that game. But, it looked like this game was going to follow a similar path. And then they go out there in the second half and, kind of play together, play for each other. And we're able to pull out the win. So,
well, if you remember,
kudos to Kerm and the staff for instilling that mindset in this team.
Going back to Chase for a second, in that
do, don't you?
Well, in the interview he gave after the Wazoo game, he asked the media, "Stop picking up." Says, "You guys are all questioning if we're playing hard for our coach. Don't ever question it. Stop doing that. We are playing. We love this guy. We're going to play for him." So I think that it's this dynamic that it was a horrible showing at Wazoo for a lot of reasons. We got off to a bad start, mistakes. Jaden was not throwing the ball well.
Well, yeah, a home game coming out of a bye that can't happen.
Well, it was a game. When we sit here at the beginning of the season, folks, in this podcast, and we're adding up, we're kind of mentally going who we can beat. That was one we always expected we were going to win that game. I thought there was going to be, no one was going to get through the season perfectly. We both were saying 10 wins. we can still get to 10 wins if we win our bowl game and win these next two. I know you shouldn't be looking ahead,
No.
but these kids are playing for her absolutely right now, and they're playing for AP. AP's done a marvelous job with his adjustments.
Yeah. And I like what he's done with this defense this year. The fact they've been able to force turnovers when they needed to. That touchdown return that Merlin had was really great to see. The fact they were able to get defensively able to get into the end zone. It's been I know they've been itching for one of those. At some point. And as we always do here on Running with the Devils after a win, our players of the game presented by the Valley Athletic Booster Club. To support local athletics, check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. And for me, I know I'm kind of going with low-hanging fruit here, but I got to go running back Rajon Wright for the second straight week. He's looked like a man among boys. He's just looked tremendous. I mean, certainly, I think one of the best running backs. He'll end up being one of the best running backs to come out of this school if he stays healthy before it's all said and done. But he had another tremendous game, 32 carries, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 5 receptions, 53 yards through the air. Good enough to win Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week and Rose Bowl Player of the Week for the second consecutive week. And congratulations, Rajon. Well-deserved. And he got his invitation to the Senior Bowl this week as well. Well-deserved. Cannot wait to see what he continues to do going forward. He's such a fun, exciting player. And the path that he's taken to get here makes him easier to root for as well.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. What I told you, I think on Saturday night, was the thing that the pros are going to love the most about him is his durability, and he can play for such long periods of time without having to be spelled.
He's kind of become the bell cow here the second half of the season. They'll work train him in Nevada but
he doesn't want to come out.
Kind of the feature back, the hot hand.
Yeah,
he has really leaned on, especially with the struggles in the passing game.
And I've seen him get up a couple times and kind of have a little bit of a gimp getting back to the huddle, and he doesn't tap out.
He doesn't tap out. No.
Yeah.
He stays in, and he's still effective. He's still fighting through those injuries. He doesn't let him bother him. Yeah, I love that about him as well. One more thing to like about him.
I think the pros are picking up on that too.
Oh yeah, big time. You're talking about West Coast bias. People not staying up to watch this team on the East Coast.
Well, they don't get Pac-12 back east.
It doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter what time you play. Pro scouts are watching.
Oh yeah,
they watch everything. They know who's out there, and it doesn't matter where you play. It doesn't matter if you came from a small school or the biggest blue chip feeder out there. If you can ball out, they'll find you and find a place for you on their team. So
yeah.
I'm not worried about that in the slightest. And speaking of guys who balled out, another player of the game award, Dadarian Butler. I mean, seems like every other week he's one of our players of the game, and another nice showing for him. 8 tackles, a tackle for loss, and a pass deflection. Another solid game for him. And other than Rajon Wright, I think Dadarian Butler might be the best pro prospect on this team for the position that he plays.
As a senior, yes. I think there's some people coming up behind him that I think have big upside too. I mean, Kyle Soley was just 1 tackle behind Butler, and he is. I got to tell you, I think
Darian's technically a junior.
Yes, right. I'm saying he's got another year. I'm saying he's not. But I just want to give a shout out to Chris Claiborne. We haven't really mentioned his name this year, but I think he's doing a great job with this linebacking core. Because they've been the heart and soul of that defense.
Yeah, and they definitely have shown out just about every game. I mean, we have gone on them a little bit about some of their play, after the Washington State game especially. But ever since then, I think they've really come out and played about as well as you can expect, and have come up with some nice plays. You had Kyle Soley with the interception against USC last week. Last week you had Dadarian Butler come out and play as well as he did. Of course, you had Merlin Robertson, one of your players of the week, had that huge pick 6 that basically sealed the game. So yeah, linebacking core, absolutely. Especially in the last few weeks, I think they've definitely raised that game.
I think he sealed the deal, and he had seen it on film. I think what they were going to do in that situation. I was yelling at you saying someone's going to blitz. It's all they're going to, and they went into pass. Sure enough, the kid who took the wide receiver took a route, and he knew that the corner had the guy, so he just went ahead and stepped up and jumped the route. It was a thing of beauty.
Oh yeah.
And he showed he's got speed. We knew he had speed at the BYU game, right? but this was a chance to.
It works. The speed's even better when you hang on to the ball.
He redeemed himself. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
And then Center Donovan West graded out exceptionally high and was in fact named Pac-12 Offensive Lineman of the Week.
Well deserved. He's another guy that definitely belongs in the pros. Love his game. He played guard or center. Just it's been a pleasure to watch him play this year as that anchor. Pretty much ever since he set foot on campus. I mean, ever since he was a freshman. I mean, everybody's raved about him, and rightfully so. I mean, he's graded out oftentimes as well as anybody in this conference, if not the country, for what he does on that line. And now that he's taken over the center spot these past couple seasons, he's making all the calls. He's kind of becoming a leader. He's definitely one of the anchors on that offense. Yeah. So that'll do it for our Players of the Week presented by Valley Athletic Booster Club. And now, as we get into this week's matchup with the Beavers of Oregon State, this is a tough team to figure out. They're kind of an enigma wrapped in a maze, surrounded by cube of some kind of puzzle. I guess you could call them.
They're stuck. Yeah. They have the glitch in the matrix.
Yeah, they are. And they're 6-4 on the season, bowl eligible for the first time since 2013. Head coach Jonathan Smith has them playing very well at home. They're undefeated, 5-0 at home, and they've lost two other last three. They've won just one game away from Corvallis, and then they've had some big wins in their own right. I mean, they handed Utah their only conference loss of the season thus far. I think they'll get another one this week against Oregon, but we won't go there just yet. But they've lost two in a row since that win over Utah against Cal and Colorado, who were some of the weaker teams in the conference, and they lost in pretty bad fashion. I mean, they gave up over 30 points in both games, and then they turned around and fired defensive coordinator Tim Tibesar, who's been the defensive coordinator since Jonathan Smith took over, and now as the new interim DC, enter former Arizona State graduate assistant and linebackers coach Trent Frey.
Yeah,
you may remember Trent Frey. He was a graduate assistant first in 2008 under Dennis Erickson, and then was a linebackers coach under his father, the defensive coordinator Craig Bray. And Trent was the linebackers coach under him in 2010 and 2011, which were Erickson's last 2 years. Erickson coached him at Oregon State. Bray is an Oregon State alum. He's originally from Flagstaff, so he knows the area well. Be interesting to see what this defensive unit looks like under him. They look pretty good against an undermanned and beat up Stanford team last week. That's not really the best test because their Stanford's quarterback Tanner McKee is probably out for the year with an injury. And Stanford was starting a true freshman quarterback in his first start last week, and they didn't look very good offensively. So probably not the best test. I think ASU will provide them with much more of a challenge. And then the all-time series, ASU leads 30-14 and won the past three. They won anomaly in Corvallis in 2019, when they lost by just 1 point. But yeah, and then Oregon State, we mentioned their losses to Cal and Colorado over in the past couple of weeks, and then they lost to Wazoo earlier in the year as well, and Purdue to open the season in Lafayette.
Right. So, I have a question for you. Can Trent Bray honestly claim that he coached Vontaze Burfict, or that he
tried to unleash him and kind of get out of his way more?
I'm going to say he managed him and fed him red meat.
Yeah, pretty much. And then but this is, and Bray's got some experience. I mean, he was actually the interim head coach at Nebraska when Mike Riley was fired before Scott Frost took over.
Sure.
So, I think he'll have this defense playing a little bit better, just if for no other reason than they can't get any worse.
It's
and he's a different, he's a different voice in the room. So, we'll see what they look. We'll see what they look like on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't expect in 1 week to install a whole new defense, folks.
Well, no,
but
they're probably not going to be playing a whole new defense, but maybe just some of the ways that he coaches them might change.
Yeah, it's going to be wrinkles. Yeah, just like Washington lost their OC and they didn't effectively change their offense either.
The strength of this Oregon State team is definitely their offense. And Jonathan Smith, their head coach, he's an offensive coach.
He's a quarterback.
They've progressively gotten better every year that he's been there. And you mentioned they're fourth in the nation in moving the chains, picking up first downs, controlling the clock, and they're a great running team. They've done a great job running the ball against Purdue. Against Purdue, average 220 yards against Purdue and Cal, which is no easy feat. Those are no pushovers defensively. So. They put points on the board. They've done a great job, and they're not just, one trick pony. There's a lot of different players on this offense that can beat you. And 34 points per game, 400. It's third in the conference. 444 yards per game. They run the ball extremely well. They're averaging 228 yards per game, and their pass offense is definitely not their strength. Their identity is more of a run first team. But they still air it out when they need to. Chance Nolan, I mentioned this when we were talking about Jaden Daniels. I think he's probably the best quarterback in the conference right now.
I would tend to agree.
It might be a lot to say, but that's just from what I've seen from week 1 to now. He's been the best in my opinion.
Well, I can agree with you
in that the most consistent. We'll say that. The
consistency is very important, and what I've seen with 7 INTs is not a bad number. But folks, he threads balls through needles, man. I mean, I've seen him put some balls on that have no business getting there, and literally he's very confident with that arm, and he'll put it in double coverage and just find a way. So it's a strong arm, but he literally has got that ability to thread needles and throw balls on a line. I really like that in watching him. I've watched a couple of their games from beginning to end, and he really did catch my eye with some of the, some of the throws.
A nice year. You mentioned the accuracy, 65% completion percentage, which is very, very good. Over 2,000 yards, 16 touchdowns against just 7 interceptions, and he's an athlete. He can run a little bit. He's dual threat. Certainly going to have a guy. You can't be just teeing off against him because he can beat you with his legs. 213 rushing yards and a touchdown. But probably the biggest threat on this offense is their running back, B.J. Baylor, who's
he's the big. He's right up against 1,000 yards right now with a couple of games left.
Yeah, and he has. He's already cracked 1,000 all-purpose yards, but he's the workhorse. 167 carries, 970 yards, 12 touchdowns on the season. Not much of a receiving threat, just 7 catches on the season. But for what he does in the running game, and he's a big reason why they're able to move chains. Just a very athletic, back with a lot of speed. It kind of reminds me of another former Beaver back in Artavis Pierce, who was kind of the speed guy to Jamar Jefferson's Thunder. He was and then I don't think he's quite as shifty as like a Jacquizz Rodgers. Certainly
the Rodgers brothers.
Yeah, he gets out in the space. I mean, he does a little bit of everything. He gets out. If you get him out in space, he can definitely beat you with his speed. But he runs between the tackles well as well. He's not easy to bring down. Not the biggest guy, but he runs big. Definitely somebody you got to watch out for and know where he is on the field at all times because they're gonna ride him as long as they can.
Wouldn't you characterize him being more of a north-south runner than anything else?
I would. Yeah. He's not super shifty. He's not a guy who's going to dance in the backfield a ton and then try to break it outside. Even though he has the speed to do that, that's just not his style. He is more of a north-south, run between the tackles, put your foot in the ground, one cut and go type of player. And it's paid off for him. I mean, their success on the ground can't be understated.
Right.
They're the best rushing team in the Pac-12 to this point for a reason. I mean, what the team has done, and BJ Baylor's a big reason why, but another reason why is their offensive line, and you really like what they do.
They've always impressed me since Jonathan Smith got there, and taking really, it's hard to recruit offensive linemen at really good ones, especially at Oregon State. He has a lot. He has a really so he's getting 2-star, 3-star kids, and he's coached them up. And if you watch them really carefully, folks, they're not super athletic. They do a lot of pulling and things like that. It's just straight ahead power block, influence block, and they just get the most out of the players they have, I think.
Yeah, their technique is good for just pushing guys to go
Right.
where the offense wants them to go.
I call them
clear running lanes for Baylor and the other
I-
running backs.
I call them people movers. That's all they are.
Yeah, they used to call them road graders.
Road graders, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Kind of what they are. They're not going to wow you with their athleticism and their size, but they do a good job for what you ask them to do, and they I like the fact that Jonathan Smith has kind of tailored the scheme around what he has,
Right.
especially on the offensive line, and he's done a really, really great job. And Baylor, he'll be spelled by Deshaun Fenwick, who's kind of really become a workhorse in this. Kind of become the short yardage guy, the short yardage back, kind of the bigger back. He's the bigger of the two, and he's gotten his chances this year. 73 carries, 430 yards, 4 touchdowns on the year. So he's as a complimentary kind of change of pace guy who's we mentioned Baylor can run big. Fenwick is big. He'll run you over and just keep going.
Right.
He's a trucker. He's a guy who's not going to wow you with his speed. Don't expect him to go to the outside too much, but he can get downhill and get the tough yards. That's his job, and he's done it very well this year. And another guy to watch out for, especially on third downs, is Trey Lowe, their other running back. Actually has more receptions this year than carries. He's the smaller guy, kind of shifty. He's got 23 receptions for 259 yards. Third down back. And then basically the third string back. That's pretty impressive. So
yeah,
definitely getting a lot of production out of the running back spot this year. And we saw him last year when these two teams played in the season finale. This is a guy, when he gets on the field, you kind of know what he's about, what he's going to do, and that's the dual threat. The two-way player that they have on this roster. Jack Coletto plays linebacker, but he's also kind of the short yardage rushing quarterback that they have on this team. Has not attempted a pass at all this year.
The Streebler of
yeah, but they'll also line him up at tight end sometimes as kind of a lead blocker. 23 carries, 91 yards, 7 touchdowns this year. I mean, basically, he's kind of the short yardage goal line.
He's the Mr. Red Zone.
Yes, and he's also got a receiving touchdown on the year. So when he's in the game, you kind of know what this team is about. They're pretty much going to go straight ahead, let him use his size to get them the tough yards. And so he's a big reason. He's also a big reason why they've been so successful converting on third and fourth and short. They'll go for it quite a bit because they have that offense, that a quality offensive line, and this kid who can line up like quarterback.
You don't get to be the fourth best team in terms of moving the chain and controlling the clock without a player like that.
Yeah.
Right. He's in third and manageable, third and 2, third and 1. That's the guy. Right.
Yeah, and we saw it last year. If you go back to the game last year, he had a couple touchdown runs. I mean, they were basically just him taking the ball from under center and falling forward. I mean, he's that big and that tough to bring down. That's really all he does, but it's very effective the way they use him. And then this is still a team that can throw the ball when they need to, and and Teron Bradford is their big weapon on the outside. 39 receptions, 555 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Also, it's a rushing touchdown this year. He had a long touchdown catch against Stanford last week. Definitely a very, very nice player. And then Tyjon Lindsey is the other big receiver. a little bit more of an athlete. They'll definitely use him as kind of a jet in a lot of different ways. He's also I believe he's the no, I'm sorry, he's not the kick and punt returner.
The return guy? No.
Yeah, that's Bradford. Bradford's the kick and punt returner.
Right.
But, this kid, he's very shifty. Gets out of his breaks very well. Definitely they'll look for him quite a bit. 16 receptions, 232 yards, 3 touchdowns on the year. And then remember, they did a lot better defending the tight end against Washington, but ASU still struggled against teams who utilize the tight end. And Oregon State's no different. They'll use Tegan Quitoriano quite a bit, and 15 receptions, 166 yards, 3 touchdowns on the year. He's a big red zone target. ASU's got to find a way to keep his production to a minimum as well.
Yeah, on film, I'm sure that stood out for everybody who's studied our film was our difficulty in this seam.
And Washington tried to use
tight ends
a little more.
They did,
than
right?
They had in the past few games, and we did a good job on him. I mean, granted, Harris and Heward, were struggling in that game, and that weather certainly played a factor in that being able to throw the ball. But I thought that the linebackers, safeties, everybody did a really good job covering up the tight end. Probably the best job I think they've done all year when you look at some of the production that they've given up. So just some names you got to keep an eye on for this offense. Like I said, a lot of weapons. They'll spread the ball around quite a bit. A lot of ways they can beat you. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, their defense has struggled mightily this year. We mentioned they fired their defensive coordinator a couple weeks ago, and big reason why they give up a lot of yards. They're giving up almost as many yards as they gained this year. Almost 400 yards per game. Kind of middle of the road in the Pac-12, only 7th. But then you look at 34 points per game, so they're not a very good red zone defense, which is 10th in the Pac-12. 245 passing yards per game. The pass defense is definitely the kind of the weakness of this team. They're middle of the road in their rush defense when it comes to the pack, but their pass defense and their pass rush has been very weak. Only 13 sacks on the year, which is tied for 11th in the conference. So
you in the pre-show we talked about it. If you're going to have an opportunity to get Jaden sort of straightened out, this is the team to do it with.
Yes.
in terms of
that's kind of one of my keys to this game. I think that against a weaker pass rush, against a weaker secondary like Oregon State has, they're kind of going through their own turmoil on that defense right now. Yeah. With a new interim defensive coordinator, and just the way that they've struggled this year. Yeah, if this is a game Jaden Daniels can absolutely get right, through the air. And with what he's got available to him as far as talent on the outside, yeah, they missed. I think they missed Andre Johnson last week,
right.
A little bit. Johnny Wilson's also been out for the past few weeks. Certainly like to get them back, but you still have L.B. Monkley Shelton, Ricky Pearsall, Hodges. These guys are quality receivers, and no reason Jaden shouldn't be getting them the ball, especially against a weak secondary like this. Those receivers should be open at some point. Now, if the offensive line can give him time, which they should be able to, this is a weak pass rush. There's no reason he shouldn't be able to deliver the ball on time and on target.
And I think one of the reasons why 2-3 games in, we started saying, "Whoa, what's going on up at Oregon State?" and kind of circled this game. One of the reasons why we were all kind of dreading it, and when we heard the late start. Thank you, Pac-12, for doing this to us again. We all thought, it's going to be a cold, rainy night. Well, guess what? Guess what? It might be cold, but it ain't going to be raining. And
I've seen like 8 or 9% chance of precipitation.
Here's a funny little anecdote that not a lot of people know. The Pac-12 office, when they named the time 8:30 our time, 7:30 Portland time, they called and told ASU, and they apologized. They apologize because we've had to play them, so many years in a row up there, and late starts, and I think everybody knows about. I'm still trying to forget the year that we were.
Yes.
We were rated 5th, and we had a complete blowout up there. It wasn't a blowout; it was a 2-score game.
Well, a game we shouldn't have lost. Bottom line, and
no.
And the last time we lost to them in 2019, it was a late start. And then, we beat them in 2017 up there, and it was like 11 or noon kickoff.
Yeah, and we won last year.
Yeah.
But they gave us a really good game, folks, and there's a lot of people.
Yeah,
that
was a tough game, especially ASU just coming off the 70-7 win over U of A. You thought there might be a bit of a letdown, but they were still able to make it happen against that team. But I don't know, Oregon State. I mean, it's a little similar to last year in that they really struggle on defense, but they're still an offense that think they can hang with anybody in the conference. They've certainly shown that. At times when this offense is clicking, I mean, they're very, very tough to stop. So this will be a big time test for this ASU defense. But at the same time, I think it's an opportunity for the offense to get right in the passing game. We know their identity is as a running team. Expect Rajon Wright to have another good game. Expect him to get 25, 30 carries, 25, 30 touches, excuse me. But we would still like to see Jaden throw the ball 20 times for over at least crack 100 yards and no turnovers. That's the big thing. Sorry, John, can you go back one more slide? I just want to talk about this defense real quick.
Oh, yeah.
The strength of this team is certainly the linebackers. Avery Roberts is a tackling machine.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking about a strength on this defense. This is him. And he's really filled up the stat sheet with 106 tackles, 8 for loss, 1.5 sacks, an interception, 2 pass deflections, and a forced fumble. His linebacker mate, Hughes Murray, also with a nice season. And he's the sack leader as an outside linebacker with 4 sacks on the season. Rajon Wright, their corner, even though this secondary has not had a great year, they've had opportunities though. 8 pass deflections from him, and then I think Jaden Grant's kind of switched between corner and safety. I think he's a safety at the moment. He's got 2 interceptions as well as 5 pass deflections. Right, also with 2 interceptions. So this is a team that they haven't. They've been given out plenty of opportunities. Teams know that they can throw the ball against them, but the passes have still got to be on target, on time.
Yeah,
the receivers have got to be able to make plays against them, because they're not going to do it for you. They're not just going to be standing still out there. Even as bad as they play, they're still going to be playing with heart and passion. Especially when they're still kind of on the outside. They still got an outside chance at winning the North. No, I'm sorry. No, they don't. Oregon did clinch last week with their win, so I apologize for that. But this is still a team that's playing for pride. They want a better bowl game, and now they're bowl eligible for the first time in 8 years. I think they're still playing for something.
Well, they're playing for recruiting too. I mean, this is the thing. If you're every year you're improving, at least on your in your offense. This is the kind of it's tough to recruit up there, and you can.
And hey, the only way you get better is by recruiting.
Well, you're right, and what they have to offer is playing time to these guys, right? And so, and while they're not a ball hawking team like Washington was, which made Jaden's life a little tough, you're right. This is an opportunity for us to get Jaden back on track and start doing a little more balanced approach to the game.
Yeah, that balance. That's really what I think we're looking for in these last few games here. And that'll take us into our keys to the game presented by xllending.com. For all your mortgage needs, check out xllending.com. And for me, you got to bottle up BJ Baylor. Stack the box against the run. Make Nolan beat you through the air. I think this is a team that wants to run the ball. Even though Nolan's had a great season throwing the ball through the air, over 2,000 yards, I think this is still a team that wants to win on the ground. They want to control the clock. They want to move the chains. They want to kind of break your spirit through with what they do on the ground. And BJ Baylor is a big reason for that. So I think you absolutely need to
stop the run.
Put the corners and the safeties on an island if you have to, and make Nolan make some throws. He's been you mentioned he's been accurate this year, but he's also thrown 7 interceptions.
Right.
Make him beat you, until he doesn't. I think you gotta this is one of those games you got to take away the run and force them to beat you through the pass. And then, if they're doing that, but if they're doing that, though, that means the defense is back out on the field. You may need to win this game scoring 40.
You think so? You're leaning towards. I can already hear it. A little bit of
I think a shootout might favor
a shootout. Okay.
A shootout might favor ASU because they have the better defense and the more opportunistic defense that's been prone to forcing turnovers. If they can force a couple turnovers, that might be the difference in a game like this.
Yeah, it's not like you want to keep this offense off the field. It's
not necessarily. No,
right.
That should not be their strategy.
That's not the strategy. Yeah, I get you.
But,
I got you.
At the same time, I think you need to kind of get this offense out of their comfort zone. Their comfort zone is running the ball, long sustained drives. Keeping Nolan upright and making the running backs like Baylor and Fenwick, move the chains on the ground.
I'm just wondering
if that's where when they've been able to win this year, what they've been able to do against tougher defensive teams.
Yeah, we're not a big blitz team, and when we do,
we haven't had to be this year.
We'll walk up a corner or a linebacker occasionally. I'm just wondering if this is not the kind of team that you want to maybe send a couple guys and make him really uncomfortable.
For a run blitz, yes. To take away the running lanes,
right.
Absolutely. I don't think you have to blitz on passing down.
No, that's what I'm saying.
But get them if you can stack the box, maybe get some tackles for loss, put them in some third and long situations where they have to throw the ball.
That's right.
Kind of stay back, keep the linebackers in the passing lanes, and hopefully your front will be able to get home and force some mistakes. So hopefully that's what I'd like to see as far as defensively. And on offense, I think this is an your mission, should you choose to accept it, Jaden Daniels, is to get right in this game. This is an Operation Get Right should be on his mindset, in his mind for this game. After back-to-back just bad games, and even further than that, he didn't have a very good game against Washington State. Second half against Utah was really bad. He's facing a weak secondary, a weak pass rush. I think this is a great opportunity for him to find his receivers, make some easy throws, not worry about the pass rush, set his feet and just throw it. I mean, just play a little pitch and catch with your receivers. Don't try to do too much. Don't get too fancy. Your offense has been able to move the ball on the ground. Now it's time for the passing offense to kind of pick up the slack and make this team a little bit more balanced. We mentioned that in the last segment. I think that's got to absolutely be the case.
Right. And so for me, we have been a slow starting team in numerous games this year, and this is the kind of team you don't want to get off to a slow start. You don't want to spot them 14 points.
No.
And again, you heard me sort of criticize, and I think you were the first to kind of agree with me. Was that if you have an opportunity, it's 4th and 3, and you can't, and you're just not getting there. Get the 3 points, get the field goal, especially if you've had a long sustained drive and you need to reward your players.
I agree.
So
we're both kind of in agreement on that, and I think it was kind of foolish to go after Washington the way they did on 4th down. And just if you're in the red zone, you got a chance to put points on the board. I think you do it against this team, especially if you're it's kind of middle of the game. Your defense is playing relatively well. I don't think you take unnecessary risk. You don't chase points, even if you're down one score. I don't think that you do that. I think you play a little safe. Just take the field goal, take the points, and rely on your defense, because going forward on 4th down, chasing the points shows lack of faith in the defense. And I don't think that's not what ASU is about. I don't think that's where they're at when it comes to their defense at this point.
Especially when it's the heart and soul of this team. And as I keep saying every week after week, and it really became, that's the team's identity. I mean, they got an identity, and when
a defensive run first team.
That's right.
That's what we are, and that's what we need to embrace.
And that's why we've been winning on the road, folks. Just like Herm says, those two things travel well.
Yep.
Yeah. And so
it doesn't matter if it's raining or not. It doesn't matter if it's 40 degrees. If they're running the ball well and they're playing defense, it really shouldn't matter.
You can win on the road, and that's the difference between third place and and a contender. So I will just when I say 35 run plays, that's still more. That's more than he had last week. But in totality, we had what, 52? How many?
57. We had 57
57.
run plays.
Yeah.
Among the whole
Yeah.
team.
Right. And so and I'm not so sure you want to keep putting Jaden. I mean, it looked like about 3 or 4 of those were true RPOs. Jaden taken off because
read options.
Well, right. The corners were playing way off, or they were dropping.
And then also, I mean, the defensive end came up to try to take away Rajon Wright, and Jaden just tucked it and ran, and it was usually the right decision. So,
right.
I mean, if it's there and they're trying to take away Rajon Wright, absolutely tuck and run, because this is not a very reactive, athletic, speedy defense out there.
Correct.
They're trying to keep everything in front of them, trying to play a bend but don't break style, just trying to minimize the damage. That's really all they're really what they're about, what they're trying to do.
And almost by design, it's for that one linebacker to go pick up all the tackles.
Roberts,
so
right.
Roberts. So we have to get off to a fast start. This slow start thing has been bugging me, and I know it's bugging Herm.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. And then, well, like I say, we're still going to be a run-centric team. This is a crested field, folks. It's one of the most crested in all of the pack because of the amount of rain they have. And if you remember last year, his first 3 to 4 passes were a little kind of off because of it's about a 2.5 foot drop to the edge. It's significant.
Yeah, and it was it was rainy last year too.
Yes, and that's going to
still able to move the ball, still able to throw it, still able to put points on the board. So
when the balls,
I don't think that even with the crested field, I don't think that'll be the case. I think absolutely, you need to see, I'd say a minimum 40 run plays.
Yeah. Oh yeah, at least that was very conservative, but I want to see Jaden go out and in warm-ups and recognize what's going on with that crested field. That's what a quarterback whisperer or a quarterback coach is going to want you to do, is throw all the kinds of balls you're going to potentially be throwing from that highest point to the lowest point in that field. And because your footwork has not been right, he's really got to concentrate on what he's doing.
Yeah.
So we've talked.
That kind of feeds into what I was saying too, and I think this is absolutely a game that he has no excuses. He has no excuses against a defense like this, where he's got an opportunity to lead his team, and pick up the slack the past couple of weeks, kind of erase those bad performances. If he can go out there and lead this team to a win, and just keep up his end of the bargain, basically, just make some smart, effective throws and not turn the ball over. There's no reason ASU can't come away with a win.
Absolutely.
That's our keys to the game, presented by XLLending.com. For your mortgage needs, check out XLLending.com. Now it's prediction time. Our predictions, as always, in this game. Once again, I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it'll be the first one to 40 probably wins this game. I'm saying ASU 41-36. Another close one, but the Devils will escape Corvallis with the victory.
Yeah, it's interesting. We both see it at about the same delta between the two, as far as about
a one-score game.
A one-score game, correct.
I think Beavers might make a little bit of a late push. ASU's been the fourth quarter team, but they still have had trouble finishing off games.
Yeah.
I think this game they'll put it away at the end, and then Beavers might get another late score to pull within one.
Yeah. I would love to see a score 40. I would love to see that for the first time in a long time.
It's been tough for them to get to 40 points this year, which has been a little bit unusual. But I think they'll get it done against this defense that's struggled of late. So 31-27. I think that I would certainly take that. I mean, if you only give up 27 points against this offense,
you've really done a good job.
You've done your job totally.
Yeah, that's I think this is going to be a point of pride for this defense, is to
if you can keep them under 30, if your offense is halfway decent at all, which it should be.
Yeah.
There's no, especially if they're able to run the ball like they have, there's no reason you can't come away with a win.
One of the things I really saw in the Washington game was in the fourth quarter, Washington was gassed. They were really tired. They could not. Those last two possessions the Devils had, they just couldn't run. They just couldn't keep up, and they were, and we were tired too.
Seemed like
But
it seemed like the whole fourth quarter, belonged to ASU. By the end of the third, Washington was just, they had nothing left.
So
and part of that was their depth of their team is not great on defense.
Yeah.
But ASU being able to run the ball in the first half is a big reason as well. And that's really all they did. I mean,
did you see Ladarius his post game comments?
His pancake block, yes.
But he said, "I was really tired in that last try, but I wasn't going to let him see that I was tired." Yes. Basically. But that goes back to resiliency.
That goes back to coaching. They're able to, even though you're tired, you're still able to play at a high level.
Right. So, again, one game at a time. This is a team. This is we are favored by 3, and I think the over under is like 58 and a half. I don't really worry about this stuff. I kind of think in terms of
before you picked your score.
I didn't. I've been thinking, where have we been coming in at offensively?
Yeah.
Against teams who have a weak defense, and we just can't get to 40, even with bad defenses. So I don't know. I'm I'm saying,
as well as, but then again, our defense has been playing well enough to where we haven't needed to.
Right.
But I think this is finally a game that we will get to there, even from a necessity standpoint, just because Oregon State's offense has been so potent. So those are our predictions for this week. And in closing, we got to give a prayers up to former Sun Devil great Curly Culp, who's battling stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Really, really tough to hear. Definitely hope things are going well for him.
All American wrestling and
the obvious, of course.
Two sport athlete.
Football and wrestling. Yep. His name's up in the rafters at Sun Devil Stadium for a reason. He's really a great Sun Devil, and nothing but the best his way during this difficult time. So 8:30 kickoff on Saturday. Tune into ESPN to watch the Devils and the Beavers, and keep an eye out on that Oregon-Utah game, because Utah, if ASU wins and Utah loses, they are tied going into the final week of the season. So definitely something to keep an eye on. If Utah wins and ASU loses, Utah is the South champ. So,
and remember what I think I pointed this out a few weeks ago. You have head to head, you have overall, and the third tiebreaker is national ranking.
Right.
So that's why I think a little bit of style points or a little bit of finishing strong here could help ASU in terms of national ranking. And if Utah loses 2, then they're certainly going to drop it.
Yeah. And that's certainly the hope. I mean, they got Oregon this week. They got Colorado in the whatever they call it, their forced rivalry game that they play as the finale every year. But it is a late start, so definitely get your rest in during the day.
Get your
pop a caffeinated beverage before the game. I know I will certainly be doing that. But Fox up. Hopefully the Devils be able to come out of the Beaver State with a win over the Beavers on Saturday. So for Big John Caldwell, I've been the RyKno Ryan Knowles. We always appreciate you guys tuning in to Running with the Devils, and we love you guys. Feel free to comment on the Say good night. Go Devils. Forks up.
Forks up, guys.